Welcome back to the Truck Series playoff show. I'm Casey Campbell, and that's Jonathan Fjeld from the Racing Experts. Lots of interesting things going on. Hey, guess what? We're in the last week of July, and the Truck Series playoffs are starting. I cannot believe it.
At IRP, no less. And, I got the blue accidentally to fit the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series playoff preview show. Kind of an interesting thing calling it the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series, but we'll get to that in a little bit. IRP, this has been long awaited. The last time the trucks raced here was back in 2011, and I know it was really sad that race was because everybody knew that this was going to be the last race for the foreseeable future for NASCAR there, and now they're back. So it's awesome to see, and we're starting the playoffs there. I can't think of a more triumphant way for this track to return.
Yeah, of course it's IRP is back, and I know a lot of people are excited about that. I know our good friend Garth Allen from Racing News Now is really excited about IRP. Of course, he'll be down there covering the ARC and truck race. So fun stuff there. Hey, I know you mentioned the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. There was some news about that actually just recently, a few hours ago. Marcus Lemonis broke the news that Camping World will not return as the entitlement sponsor for the Truck Series next year. So Camping World is ending their 14-year run of being the entitlement sponsor of the series from 2009 to, of course, the current year, 2022. Of course, they're going to finish out the year. But it's something that has been coming down the pipeline for a long time. And I know Marcus said this when he was on SiriusXM just a little bit ago. But your thoughts and about where this series has gone, because it's been a very different series. It was a very different series when Camping World first came in 2009.
Yeah, back in 2009, you had the likes of Ron Hornaday Jr., Mike Skinner, Johnny Benz, names like that who were really taking it to a few of the young guns, who came through. And of course, you had Kyle Busch in the series as well. But now it's sort of turned into kind of a weird mix of the young guns. You got some, as some people call it, truck lifers in the series. And, you have some independent drivers who are trying to make it. So it's really transformed. But looking at the deal, I think it just ran its course. You look at the original title sponsor for the Truck Series, of course, Craftsman. They ran from 96 to 08. So it was 13 seasons. When you look at Camping World, it's 09 to 2022. So you're looking at 14 seasons there. You look at other deals in the sport as well, like M&M's, Kyle Busch, 08 to 22. It's about 15 seasons. Even Jimmy Johnson and Lowe's, where it was 02 to 18. So about 17 seasons. It's just a good enough run time to where you can establish a good brand and that notoriety in fans' heads and spend a good amount of money and still save some and prioritize other areas. So it's going to be sad to see Camping World go. And Marcus Lemonis has been awesome, and he'll probably still stick around the sport, but definitely going to be a change though.
Yeah, it will be. I know that there have been some other things that have been out there. And of course, according to the almighty Adam Stern, it could be a nostalgic return. He reported that Craftsman is in talks about returning as the title sponsor for the Truck Series. And I think a lot of fans who love the Truck Series, and me, I love this series, but I think a lot of fans from back in the day are going to be very, very happy to see them back.
I laughed when I saw that. I laughed when I saw that report. It's like things are coming full circle, and someone joked that it's like the mid 2000s are back. But that's exciting too. Obviously Craftsman is no longer under the ownership of Sears anymore. It's, Stanley Black & Decker, so it's kind of a different thing, but still that brand, we've seen it with Joe Gibbs Racing, how Stanley Black & Decker has engaged that Craftsman brand back in the sport just because people remember it so well. I mean, the old Truck Series was awesome. I mean, Truck Series is still awesome, but old Truck Series was awesome back in the day. So re-engage that brand, bring back the old logo, do something like that, do something fun. It'd be really cool to see. So it's interesting.
It might be it might be the old logo, but it might be in that new box format that they have for all like the Cup Series, Xfinity Series. They still have the kind of the oval for ARCA, but who knows? That might be in the nice spot. The box logo
So.
looks good on the uniforms though. We'll obviously stay tuned for that. Of course, when that news happens, it will happen. But we got this. But before that happens, that's down the road. But we got to think about right now, because this is the playoffs have begun. Hard to believe it's there, but we won't. And the thing is, we won't be doing this type of show until the first week of September, after August. So we got another month before we do one of these again, and then we're going to do it again in September when the Xfinity Series playoffs begins. So, but this is going to be spread out, unlike the other series. Before we get into the drivers competing, we'll talk about what's in the series. We got round 1, round 2, and then the championship round. This is going to be an interesting round because we got IRP. Richmond is in the playoffs again, and then we got Kansas to finish off round 1.
Yeah, it's exciting. Last year, of course, we had Richmond in the spring. That was a race that went pretty well for KBM. So it bodes well for, Chandler Smith and John Hunter Nemechek. Really, I think this whole round bodes, it's kind of a softball round in some ways. I think just because when you look at the field, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when you look at the field, I think there's some clear favorites who are going to advance, who are going to succeed, but you never know. I mean, IRP has been a very unpredictable short track. I think we could see some wild action. And Kansas too, Kansas often is a track that could either be very tame or very wild and unpredictable. And oftentimes there's like no in between at all. Like in the Xfinity Series, we've seen Kansas be a wild card track. I remember in 2018, 2019, where the field shook up during that race. So could we see something like that in the trucks? Who knows?
Yeah, I think we could, because you never know. It's a truck series, and plus the trucks were already at Kansas this year. It was a pretty tame race. Not really a lot of cautions, a lot of wrecks, but maybe that could change. Even though it is a cutoff race, but it's not just those 10 drivers. You got the rest of the field that's going to be in there that's trying to go after a win and a good finish as well. But that's round 1. Round 2 is going to be interesting. Of course, Bristol is going to kick off round 2. This is the pavement Bristol. Of course, the trucks were on Bristol dirt. Of course, none of the trucks, all the trucks were on the track. No one went to the garage area. No one retired from the race. First time that's ever happened. Then they go to the almighty Talladega. That could be interesting for sure. And for the first time in 2 years, the trucks will be heading to Homestead, and that's actually going to be the cutoff race for round 2 to get in the championship 4. And then, of course, the championship race will be at Phoenix as part of NASCAR's championship weekend, which you'll be down there for.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go back to round 2.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit.
As you're reading the tracks off, I can't think of a wilder round to determine the championship 4, because you remember last year where Chandler Smith pulled the bump and run on, I believe it was John Hunter Nemechek for the win to get into the next round. Of course, it was round of 10 to get into the round of 8, but wild move. And now we're going to Bristol, where a bump and run could determine whether or not you get in the championship 4. Like, that is going to be absolutely crazy. And then you go to Talladega. Last year when you were at Talladega, you saw the 2 leaders come across the finish line spinning and wrecked and all this. So it's going to be wild. Like, those 2 races always put on a show, are always wild. And I'm glad that one of those 2 is not the cutoff race, because we would just see all chaos break loose in it. Exciting to see Homestead back in the playoffs, for Cup especially. It's awesome to see, but also for the trucks as well. Great to see Homestead back. That's gonna be a fun race.
It will be. And of course, Phoenix being the championship race, a 10 p.m. start, not for good for us East Coasters, but for you that live out, well, actually, you're going to be there. So, what are we going to expect in that championship race? We didn't really see much, and then I don't think many people expected Ben Rhodes to win the championship last year.
Yeah. Well, oftentimes what happens, in the championship races is we see a very tame race where the championship four is driving hard, giving it their all, and the rest of the field is kind of, it's kind of a natural leeway that they give because they don't want to be that guy that ruins the championship battle. So I think in that race, it's going to be fun to see because last year as well, we saw someone outside the championship for win the race. And then it was kind of a battle further back in the pack for the championship. And of course, Ben Rhodes homemade in and on the long run and breaking Zane Smith's heart with the bump and run. So we could see something like that. And I'll be very curious to see if maybe we have kind of a surprise driver in the playoffs, because one driver who's a surprise last year was Chandler Smith, where he won at Bristol, he advanced, got eliminated, but then had a really good race, went out there, had a good performance. And so maybe we see a driver like that who kind of spoils the party. Corey Heim.
Of course, well, that's another thing. One thing on Chandler Smith, remember, he did win the race at Phoenix last year. And Corey Heim is another driver. Yeah, he not be competing for the championship, but there's still another championship to go after, and that is the Owners' Championship. And that, and of course, the 51, I believe, is in the playoffs for that. So that's another thing to watch out for. Of course, Ben Rhodes got ThorSport there for actually their first Owners' Championship last year. So let's talk about who's in. We talked about the tracks. Now let's talk about the drivers that are in it. Who is going? There's 10 of them in the field. And if you've been following me on Twitter during Pocono Week, I kind of broke all of it down. The manufacturer breakdown. There are 7 Toyotas, 2 Chevrolets, and 1 Ford. Remember the old CBS breakdown? They used to break down all the manufacturing. Of course, you would know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In team wise, all 4 ThorSport racing trucks full time made the field. Now there's going to be 5 of them this weekend. Johnny Sauer will be in 13. But how about 4 ThorSport trucks in the playoffs? Ty Majeski's in his first playoff. Christian Eckes, after going part-time last year with ThorSport, he's in. Matt Crafton, the only driver that has been in all 7 of the Truck Series playoffs, which started back in 2016. And then you got Ben Rhodes, the defending champ.
Mm-hmm. That team is stacked. You look at Crafton, of course, who has bundles of experience running for a championship, has made every single playoffs that the trucks have run as well. You also have, someone like Christian Eckes, who, he won a stage at Pocono, maybe kind of hinting at some speed. Also, Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes is kind of interesting, though, because he started off the season really well and has fallen off because he, at one point, he was contending for the regular season championship, and then he fell back to the back half of the top 10. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can pick up the pace for the playoffs. He might be a surprise early out. We'll have to see. And then for Ty Majeski, I think it's just wonderful to see him in the playoffs because this is the first time he's made the playoffs in any series at all. Yeah. And kind of been bouncing from ride to ride. You remember the cursed Roush number 60 car from a few years ago or so. He's battled, and really, this is, no matter how the playoffs go, this is the culmination of all that hard work, and this is such a great reward. That's awesome to see for Ty.
Absolutely. Of course, he is also a ThorSport employee. He actually lives in Sandusky, Ohio, so right near the shop. So it's good to see for Ty and that team. So let's talk about some of the other people that are in there. KBM's got both their full-time teams in there. Let's talk about the 4 team for a second. John Nemechek was one of the favorites to win the championship, ultimately didn't. But this year only has 1 win on the year, if I'm not mistaken. So what are we expecting out of that Ford team? Are we going to see some of them next, some of that magic we saw last year? Or are we going to, what are we going to expect out of the Ford team this year?
Quieter performance, I think. I think more consistent, more of just kind of pointing the way into the different round, moving on and pointing the way into the different rounds, whatnot. I could see John Hunter Nemechek making it to the championship 4. Whether or not he's as strong of a factor as, well, he would have been, of course, he found troubles early at Phoenix. I think that remains to be seen because he just hasn't had that speed. Then again, though, we saw it with Zane Smith where, obviously Zane wasn't performing quite as well as, John Hunter Nemechek was, in the regular season this year. But we've seen surprises where guys can turn up that wick and turn up the speed and put it on. And if anybody can do it, it's John Hunter Nemechek, and especially KBM. That's top of the line equipment. They could easily find speed and hit on something. They could be hiding something too.
That's
Never
true.
know.
That's true as well. Now let's talk about the other KBM driver, Chandler Smith. I think a lot of people shouldn't be surprised with how he's been performing. Chandler's got a lot of talent.
He does.
And, getting the couple wins that he did. Yeah, KBM, we didn't see KBM act like KBM this year. And then KBM really turned on the wick at Pocono, especially now with Chandler finishing so well. John Hunter was up there. Corey Heim was up there. But it seems like a lot of people, according to when we did all our playoff brackets, what we'll talk about in a minute, seems like a lot of people are picking that 18 to get the championship this year.
Yeah, I certainly think he could go all the way. I think he's going to be one of those guys who quickly locks in to the playoffs or to advance through to the next round of the playoffs. He'll have a good shot at IRP. He's going to do really well, I think. I'm not too worried about Chandler Smith.
Yeah.
Whether it's consistency or winning races, he can do either or, and he's a good contender to take it to Zane Smith. So I'm excited for Chandler Smith. I'm also excited that he's going to be a father as well, but that's kind of off topic. But
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. He and his wife Kenzie are expecting a baby within, I believe if I'm not mistaken, could be in August. From what I talked to Chandler Mid Ohio, it looks like in the next few months is I believe in August. I believe that Chandler Smith Jr. will be born. I believe they've already selected a name for that. So it'll be fun. Nothing like, of course, John Hunter's a dad, and of course, how all the photos. And also, speaking of, we're on that topic, Daniel Hemrick just announced that he and his wife are expecting another child. So fun stuff there. Lots of families, lots of drivers that are extending their families. So that's good. Let's talk about Stuart Friesen for a minute. We've seen a lot of gains out of the Halmar Friesen team this year. Of course, Stuart getting the win at Texas. This is someone that has a dirt background, but the last few years, since they've made the switch to Toyota, we've seen the 52 team, progressively getting better since they were with Chevrolet in 19. Getting that win, that brings all the confidence in the world with the 52. This is fun, but what are we going to expect out of Stuart this year?
Well, I think he'll be solidly in the round of 8. I'm not too worried about Stuart Friesen getting into the round of 8. Once he gets to the round of 8, I think it could go either way. You see Stuart Friesen where he can have some speed, but also sometimes, where it doesn't always show up. And so I think that Stuart Friesen easily makes it through round of 10. Round of 8 might be searching for some speed, but, as we talked about, Bristol and Talladega, they're 2 attrition-filled tracks. Maybe if that 52 team doesn't quite bring the speed, benefit from some of the attrition and just surviving.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about all the Toyotas, the 7 of them, and it's going to be good. But now let's talk about we'll talk about Chevrolet now. They have 2 drivers in. We'll save the 4 driver for last. Grant Enfinger is back in the playoffs. Of course, one of the biggest free agent signings in the Truck Series this year was him going to GMS on a multi-year deal. He was part-time last year, and he wanted to find a way to get back. GMS has not had the best season this year, and but it looks like he got some confidence heading into the season. Jeff Hensley, of course, the crew chief that was with him from 2017 till 2020 when he was at ThorSport. They got a lot of wins together, and they were in the championship 4 in 2020 at Phoenix. So they're back together again at GMS. Of course, Jeff Hensley was with GMS last year. Now Jeff Hensley is back at GMS. He rejoined the team at Mid-Ohio. Got a chance to talk to Jeff before they actually went out to practice. Just a good guy, and they know it was right off day one that they were happy to be back together. But this is a new team trying to get there. But what do we expect out of Grant this year? Because it's been a while since he's been back. He's full time. But what are we going to expect out of him? Because it's GMS has not won this year. This is unlike them because they've gone from 5 trucks to 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I just don't see GMS making drastic gains as a playoffs approach. I just don't quite see it. But the ace in the hole that they have is that Grant Enfinger is a very consistent race car driver. Where other guys will have issues or faults or different things that take him out of a good finish, Grant Enfinger is a top 10 and top 15 machine, and so I think that could go really well if some guys find trouble at, say, IRP this upcoming weekend, but also too, I don't know. I think you're going to have to bring the performance to the round of 10, because although IRP is going to be, more of a physical race, more of a short track race, we've seen Richmond be pretty calm lately. And also too, Kansas, I mean, we already talked about how Kansas can go either way, but if the spring race is anything to go off of, kind of a calmer race, you're going to have to bring the performance. And I just don't see that for Grant Enfinger.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how GMS has done, because it has not been, it's been a rebuilding year for GMS, but I wouldn't say that because this is a team that won the championship 2 years ago with Sheldon Creed, and this is a team that had all 5 of their trucks, actually all 4 of their trucks, I should say, in the playoffs last year, and they did pretty well and won that was the dominant year, and they still got one in the playoffs with Zane Smith in the championship. So we'll see what GMS can bring in this year, because I think they could surprise some people. Now, someone that is surprising some people, let's talk about the other Chevy driver that's in, is Carson Hosevar at Nice. So many times we've talked about so close, but yet so far. He's knocking on the door for wins, and a lot of people are saying he could possibly get it done this weekend. That 42 truck of Carson Hosevar. I know he's been dealt with a lot of stuff this year with with the injuries at WWT Raceway. Of course, his girlfriend Peyton is with all the health scares that she has had. So what are we going to expect out of the 42 team?
You touched on it. I mean, Carson Hosevar is a driver who's tough as nails, resilient, charismatic, and he has a lot of talent. We've seen that. But he just has to find a way to close out those races. Like at Charlotte, had that win quite possibly in the bag.
Yeah.
Just couldn't execute that final restart. I think he's going to learn, though. And I think this first round, just being able to race in playoff mode, be able to make it to I think he's going to make it to the next round. And I think what might happen, I think he might win at Homestead, and I think he might get into the championship 4. He's been good on the speedways, really good on the speedways. And just looking at the way the playoffs are set up, I think it just is trending that way to break through. He could even be a underdog for the championship. Obviously, we're going to talk about the guy who is topping all the lists and whatnot, our list as well, probably. I don't know exactly what yours is, but yeah, I think Carson Hosevar could be somebody very underrated, though.
Yeah. And yeah, you mentioned it. Let's talk about him. Zane Smith, of course, the one driver we haven't talked about yet. what can you say about one of the big one outside of Grant Enfinger going to GMS? This is probably one of the biggest free agent signings that in the truck series that I can remember. We know how
Yeah.
good that front row motorsports truck is. Last year when Todd was driving it, Zane Smith just made that program even better. That's the same crew that Todd has had. And there wasn't even doubt what Front Row Motorsports was going to do with that truck. But I know that basically I know Bob Jenkins and Jerry Friese were talking. It's like, if you can find me a driver that's a really talented driver, I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. It's like, how about Zane Smith? Can you give me Zane Smith? He goes, yeah, let's and of course they got them together. And what a signing that was. Basically is what a year for Zane. Of course, 3 wins on the year. Got to make his Cup debut at WWT Raceway, filling in for Chris Buescher while he was recovering from COVID. But I know he's been very, very high up in the Ford camp, and he's been on the radars of pretty much everybody. And I think he's the favorite. And for Front Row Motorsports to get the regular season championship, that's a big deal.
That is.
It is. And what are we going to expect from Zane? Because Zane's been in this position a lot. He's been in the championship for the last 2 years. But is this the year? Third time? They say third time's a charm. Is it though?
Could be. Now, I want to touch on Front Row Motorsports though, because I think if you had told somebody even 10 years ago that Front Row Motorsports would have the dominant team in the NASCAR Camp World Truck Series and would be a championship favorite, it will blow their mind. It will blow people's minds, just because Front Row Motorsports kind of more of a backmarker team, but they've really upped their game. Even in the Cup Series, we've seen it with Michael McDowell, how he's one of the top 12, as far as like top 10s go. He's like, I believe he's ranked 11th or 12th for most top 10s on the season. And then Zane Smith, what he's doing is remarkable. And Zane Smith is a sensational talent. You mentioned third time's a charm. I think it's going to be third time's a charm. I just don't see how, knowing what happened last year and all the speed that he had and knowing how close he was, you have to imagine Zane is driven. And it's mind blowing that he was almost a free agent, for this season and went all the way until January. Of course, Front Row Motorsports announces their stuff late, until he found that ride. But yeah, what a great pairing. I think he is the championship favorite, is good everywhere. You just can't bet against the guy. You really cannot.
Yeah, you can. And I know that, Bob Jenkins and Jerry Friese, and obviously, if you've watched this channel before, I've had a lot of people from Front Row on. And it's they're one of the best teams out there. One of the best teams to work with too. So, all right, now you've heard about all the contenders, you've heard about all the tracks. Now it's time for us to give the predictions out there. Okay, so we know all the bracket stuff, but who is in your championship 4 and who do you have as the champion?
Ooh. So my championship 4, I'm going to go with, of course, we're hot off the heels of Zane Smith, so I have to pick Zane Smith. And then Chandler Smith as well. And I think Carson Hosevar, I was talking him up just a little bit ago. I think he has a clear path to the championship 4. And then I think John Hunter Nemechek, we always see a driver get in on points. Of course, 3 winners, 1 spot for points. I think John Hunter Nemechek will be that driver. So champion, give me Zane Smith.
Yeah, I think it's that's a very, very solid pick right there. I've been debating on who the champion could be because we've all did our brackets and stuff, and I know that everyone's got Zane or Chandler, but this is the playoffs. Who knows what could happen? Last year I think a lot of people had John Hunter Nemechek as the champion, or surprises that maybe Todd got out as more quicker than we thought, or surprised that Crafton was was eliminated early or something like that. But just a lot of things that can happen in these playoffs. So I'm going to say, I got Zane Smith. I got Chandler Smith. I got both the Smiths in there. That's the common thing that both of them are going to be in the championship for. I got Christian Eckes in there as well. Christian's got a lot of talent. I think that a lot of people, when he was in that last year in 2020 with KBM, I think there were a lot of races he could have won, and they just came up short. And that's racing. You don't know when, it happens. A lot of bad luck was happening with that team. But he found a home at ThorSport, and I think that 98 team is ready. Got the win at Las Vegas last year. I think he's going to get another win in the playoffs. I'm not positive on that. And I got Ben Rhodes, the champion. But we're going to go. But we're going to have a back-to-back champion this year. I think that 99 team is going to go back-to-back. And yes, we're going to see one of those press conferences again. That you got to see in person last year. I bet that was fun.
Well, when you mentioned Ben Rhodes is going to be your champion, I joked with you. You just want to see another entertaining press conference.
I think we all would.
Oh yeah.
So, that's the thing. I think the 99 team. Yeah. I know they've had their struggles in the past few weeks. I know at Mid Ohio they had some mechanical failures from when I talked to Rich Lucius after that race, and Pocono I know they didn't have the best run at Pocono, but playoffs is where a lot of things could happen, a lot of things could change. It's going to be a dogfight in these playoffs for all 10 of these teams. I wouldn't be surprised if any of them get to the championship four. So who knows what could happen? It's the playoffs. Anything can and usually will happen. I mean, we're going to Talladega of all places. So, and who knows what's going to IRP, I think, is going to be one of the biggest wild cards, the wild card of round one. Richmond's a little bit more tame. I think Kansas is going to be quite the show as well. And all those races are going to be at night. So you never know what could happen, especially if a full moon is out. Who knows what could happen there? Plus, you got all the guys that are just going to be out competing for the win. So, be an interesting race for sure. All right. Well, that's going to be the Truck Playoff Preview Show. Thanks for joining us. That's Jonathan Fjeld. I'm Casey Campbell. We're going to see you tomorrow for the preview show. So we got lots to talk about, including we're going to mention some of this as well in tomorrow's preview show. Maybe a gas and go topic as well. That's going to be back for the first time in a few weeks. Got a lot to talk about. Penalties, silly season. Oh my goodness, just a ton of stuff. Not the Alex Palou thing. That's a topic for another day. But we'll talk to you tomorrow.